The morning was clear and calm, a welcome change after the storm that rolled through the night before. The pavement was dry, the air was cool, and it felt like the weather might actually be in my favor for the day. I set out early from Harriman, Tennessee, heading north with no interstate in sight, and no intention of finding one either. The goal for the day was to make it just outside Lexington, Kentucky, far enough north to set me up for meeting my son in Cincinnati the next day. A few miles out of town, Bradley's coffee shop caught my eye by the side of the road, and I stopped in on a whim. Turns out, it was exactly what I needed. A quick caffeine jolt, and a few minutes to gather my thoughts before the long day ahead. Before we get too far down the road, please hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're always brought along for the journey. Leaving town behind, the road began to settle into a rhythm. Rolling hills, tight valleys, and that perfect mix of open stretches and shaded twists. Traffic was light, and the pavement wound steadily north through quiet farmland and scattered woods. Every few miles, the elevation shifted, offering quick climbs followed by long glides through small hollows. It wasn't fast riding, but it was focused. That smooth, connected kind of movement that keeps you engaged without wearing you down. Each small town passed like a frame in a film. Gas stations, old brick storefronts, a handful of locals waving from their porches as I rode by. At one point, I needed a way to cut slightly east, so I took Kentucky 90, which led me toward Cumberland Falls Overlook. Somehow, when planning my route, I didn't catch that there were falls. I was just focused on hitting the overlook. I don't know if it just didn't show up on the map or what. So mark that as another attraction that I missed that I'll have to catch on the next time. The area surrounding the overlook had beautiful stonework, steps, walls, and an area for picnicking. But the view was mostly lost behind overgrown trees. Not just small trees, pretty large and established trees. A bit of a waste, really, because this could have been an incredible vantage point if it were maintained. Still, it made a great place to stretch and take a breather for a bit. I launched the drone to get above the tree line for a few shots, hoping to capture more of the landscape. Even with the obstructed view, it was worth the stop. Not for the sights necessarily, but at least for the pause. Continuing north, the road began to change. The terrain shifting from gentle hills into sharper, more defined ridgelines. The curves tightened, the climbs grew longer, and the scenery turned from farmland into full-blown mountain country. The further north I rode, the more it felt like the land was folding in on itself. Green peaks layered over one another, narrow lanes threading through the deep valleys. It was beautiful, but not effortless. The temperature climbed, the air thickened, and small discomforts started to creep in. Hot spots from within my helmet, pants fitting just a little too snug. You know, there are only so many miles that can be ridden with pants fitting too tightly in the groin. It's the kind of thing that starts as a thought and turns into a major distraction. So I stopped. Once, and then again, and again. A few minutes each time just to try to fix the issue before pressing on. And it did eventually get fixed, and I kept riding. It felt like I was pushing north just to crest the other side of the mountains. The roads wound tighter, the towns smaller, and soon it was just me and the road, and the hill people. Let's just say I had a few interactions where they thought I was something that I wasn't, and my views and theirs didn't quite align. I politely exited numerous chats, got back on the bike, and tried to shake off the grime from how those conversations made me feel. Between Manchester and Oneida, the riding hit another level. Sections that rivaled the Cherahalo Skyway. Smooth, sweeping, calm. A section where the road ran parallel to the train tracks. Long, clean lines that seemed to stretch endlessly ahead, cutting through the trees. Not long after passing Oneida, I had realized I'd miss hitting the next waypoint on my GPS. The result, an unexpected detour. At first, it seemed fine. The road was headed in the right direction, climbing steadily through the hills. But then the pavement disappeared. Gravel. And not the short kind. This was long, loose, and winding. The kind that keeps your grip tight and your heart rate higher than it should be. I have a history with gravel roads, and this one tested every bit of that patience. No shoulder, blind corners, just enough grade to make every correction feel risky. Eventually, it gave way back to pavement, a small victory. And it was worth it. That next stretch of road was some of the most beautiful of the entire trip. Winding curves cut through green ridges, sunlight breaking between tree canopies, and valleys that seemed to go on forever. Every corner opened into another view, each one better than the last. It reminded me why I love taking these routes, the kind of scenery you only get when you leave the highways behind. But somewhere between Oneida and Boonville, the surprises continued. The gorgeous two-lane road suddenly narrowed into a single-lane construction zone. Just an automated traffic light separating one direction of cars from another. I sat there for what felt like forever, waiting for that green light, knowing that I'd be traveling on the wrong side of the road for this next stretch. It was an uneasy feeling, one of those moments where trust becomes the only option. And when the light turned, I went, slow, cautious, surrounded by silence and orange cones. By late afternoon, the sun had started to drop, and I could feel the miles stacking up. The hills softened, the road straightened, and small towns began appearing again. Signs that I was closing in on Winchester. It had been more than 300 miles and 8.5 hours on the road, but it didn't feel wasted. Every stop, every detour, every mistake was part of what made the day whole. I rolled into town tired, but content. The kind of tired that only comes from a full day of movement. Tomorrow's goal was simple. One last push north to Cincinnati, where the ride would pause for something even better. Family. But this is where our series ends. To be frank, the route between Lexington and Cincinnati and then through to Indianapolis really isn't anything to write home about. So, as always, ride safe, stay curious, and enjoy the journey.